Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Again, I am Katie Batesman, the content director at SheCanCode, and today we're discussing volunteering, supporting, and inspiring the next generation. We all know that there is a gender gap in the tech industry. One of the key solutions in closing this gap is to encourage more girls and young women into tech and STEM careers. Joining me today to explore this and more is the remarkable Emily Hall-Strutt, Director of Next Tech Girls. Welcome, Emily.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're a very busy lady, so thank you so much for taking the time to come and have a chat. Would love to kick off with a little bit of background about yourself, if that's okay, how you got into tech, and give us a little context about you.
Yeah, of course. So I will always say that I fell into tech, which I think is a phrase that's used by a lot of people, especially women.
Yeah.
So definitely didn't kind of set out to work in tech, wasn't looking for a career in tech. I studied languages at university because I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I enjoyed learning languages and thought a year abroad sounded fun. Um, in my final year of university, I was so determined not to graduate without a job that I printed off, this was back in the days of not really thinking about sustainability, printed off the Times Top 100 graduate schemes and applied to most of them. Had some atrocious interviews. Thankfully, when it got to the civil service fast stream, which is the government's graduate scheme, I'd had enough practice that I managed to do well enough to pass. So I was offered a place on their graduate scheme, and it was a rotation scheme, which is really common for graduate schemes. So my first 6 months was in policy, and I thought, this is definitely not what I want to do. Very stressful, very political, very hierarchical. Worked with some really great people, but just wasn't a fan of that kind of culture. And thankfully, my second posting was in a digital team. This was right at the start of kind of digital government becoming a thing. I think like GovUK and the government digital service was maybe like a year old or something, maybe even less than that. So it was a very small team in one of the agencies of the Ministry of Justice. There were opportunities for me to learn about all different kinds of roles. I decided to focus on delivery management because I didn't have a technical background. So that was something that I could learn where I could really add value as a kind of a people person. And just learn about agile ways of working, learn about all the different roles and kind of career paths that exist in tech. So it was very eye-opening for me. It was an industry that I never thought of working in, that I didn't know existed in government. So it kind of all fell into place for me from there. And that meant that I started to pursue a career in digital government because I realised this is an area of government where it's very creative, it's very collaborative. I'm getting to work with people from all different kinds of backgrounds. And it really felt like we were making kind of a tangible, positive, meaningful difference to people's lives because we were making it easier for them to access government services, which in most cases, and especially with the justice system, you probably are going through quite a tough time if you're having to access those services. You might be quite vulnerable as well. So knowing that we were making that process easier for people was really kind of fulfilling for me. And yeah, kind of since then have just carried on with that. So I ended up in the Ministry of Justice proper for several years, mostly as a delivery manager, also led on their comms and engagement for a while, and ended up leading on all their diversity, equity and inclusion work as a bit of a passion project. There wasn't kind of a specific role for it, but it was something that I was really keen to do. It was my first experience of being a minority, basically, of being underrepresented. I have older sisters. I went to an all-girls school. I studied languages, which is actually quite like woman-heavy course at university. There were like 2 boys on my course. So I wasn't used to being in an environment where there were hardly any women. And so I was really passionate about changing that. And we got loads of data around lots of different areas. We ended up having 12 different areas of diversity and inclusion that we were looking at, managed to increase representation in all of them, which was really exciting. And then I was actually on maternity leave when I was contacted by the founder of Next Tech Girls, who said they were looking for someone to come in and run the organisation, and that I had like a lot of the experience they were looking for. So it's kind of perfect timing in a weird way. It felt at first like the wrong timing because I was on maternity leave. But actually, I figured coming back from maternity leave, even if I went back into the same role as before, it would feel different, it would feel new, it would feel scary. So I thought, in a way, it's the best time to be starting something completely new because whatever I do, I'm going to feel out of my comfort zone. And I really feel like I've found my calling. I'm happy that I'm still involved in tech, even though I'm kind of not directly working in it anymore. And I think from my experience of, as I said, falling into tech, I'm really keen to help make girls and young women more aware of the opportunities that exist at an earlier age, so they can actually make informed decisions that help them get there quicker. Because if I'd known that those roles existed at a younger age, I mean, it was 6 months into my graduate scheme, so it was kind of as early as it could have been almost. But, I know so many women who only really discover the opportunities in tech further into their careers, and switching can be really difficult, not just from the learning the skills perspective, but more so from the fact that you might be quite well established in your career, and then you're looking to switch into an industry where you're the novice, you're the beginner, and you maybe don't want to take a massive pay cut. Or maybe, at the moment, especially, companies aren't really hiring junior talent. It's very hard to find entry-level roles. So I think if we can get more girls thinking about it from a younger age and making those decisions to help them get there quicker, it will close the gender gap a lot quicker too.
Definitely. And I'm so pleased that you came on here today, because on this podcast, when we ask a lot of the guests about, are there any supportive networks or women's networks that you work with, Next Tech Girls is always a network that is mentioned. So I'm so pleased that you came on here. They're always
That's so
you
nice.
always come up as that network that more people should know about, more women in tech should know about. So it's great to have you on here, and I'd love to hear kind of an overview of the mission, and obviously you said, you yourself, you'd experienced what that felt like, and that kind of aligned with what you wanted to do. But what is the overall mission of Next Tech Girls, and how are you going about that?
Yeah, so I guess our mission is to close the skills and gender gaps in the tech industry. And I think the two are very much kind of intertwined. So there are studies that have shown that if we had as many women in tech as men, that the gender, and obviously the gender gap, would be filled, but so would the skills gap.
Yeah.
So you kill two birds with one stone, for want of a better phrase. But yeah, so Next Tech Girls was actually set up back in 2016, so it's been going for quite a while, which is a really nice thing, because it means that when I started last summer, I was able to track down some young women who had worked with us right at the beginning and see what their journey's been since that first interaction. So when we started, the focus was, I say we, it was prior to me joining, but I feel like I was involved spiritually. When it was started, it was focused solely on organising work experience placements. So most schools in England and the UK will have like a week or occasionally 2 weeks where they'll ask students to go out and find work experience. And it's at a really crucial age where they're still making decisions about what they might want to do in their future careers. But it's really underutilized. A lot of young people will go to their parents' office because it's easy and it's where they've got a connection, or they'll go to something arranged by their school, which is normally like a local shop or a local primary school. It often has nothing to do with what they're interested in. They'll be making tea and doing paperwork, and it's not exciting. If anything, it kind of puts them off the idea of working in general, which is not great. And they saw that as an amazing opportunity to get in there at that crucial age when girls are making those decisions, when all the studies show that their interest in tech drops off, to show them what a career in tech is really like, to bust some of the myths around it, make them aware of career paths that they've never even heard of, and get them meeting women in tech, especially, as kind of role models, because we've all heard the phrase like, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And I think interacting with women who've had these great careers, or who are starting these exciting careers in tech, and learning about how they got there and what they actually do day to day, is something that they're not getting from the education system at the moment. Just trying to kind of fill that gap and bridge the gap, I guess, between education and employment, so between companies and schools and colleges. When I joined last year, one of my kind of main remit, I guess, was to launch online events as a way of kind of future-proofing our work. So they had a couple of years where they hadn't really been able to do much because of lockdowns, had tried doing online placements, but it didn't really work as well. Schools weren't keen. And also they were very keen to be able to get out to students who maybe aren't within a commutable distance of a tech office. So online events were a great way to do that. So I launched those last October, and it's massively increased our reach, which is amazing. So not just in terms of kind of geographically, but actually the numbers that we can reach, because we can have multiple schools joining each online event. So we've actually, when I started, the kind of total number of work experience placements was about 500 or 600. We've done another couple of hundred work experience placements this year, but we've had more than 4,000 girls join our online events. So
wow.
the numbers are massive. There's a
Yeah.
real need for this in schools. Actually, schools are really keen that we don't struggle to get an audience. Schools are really keen for this because a lot of them have kind of benchmarks that they have to hit in terms of interactions with employers, and even outside of work experience, there's other things that they have to do to make sure that their students are learning about career opportunities and career paths.
Yeah.
So it's a really great way for us to help them meet those benchmarks while inspiring young people, and also getting current women in tech, like raising their profiles, giving them exposure, giving them speaking opportunities, and the companies that we're working with obviously helping to align them with the work that we're doing. So we kind of feel like it's a win-win-win-win.
But yeah, for everyone. Yeah.
Crying out for something like this, and we're trying to fill in that gap for them.
Yeah. Incredible. And I love the fact that you said about busting myths and misconceptions of working in tech. And that is something that we advocate as SheCanCode, and conversations that we constantly have on this podcast, and speaking to ladies that fell into tech and just asking them, did you think it was going to be like what it's actually like? And earlier you described digital government as creative. Did you think it was going to be creative? Because unless you work in it, you don't know. You said impactful as well. You actually have an impact on people's lives, and you wouldn't think that from working, if you're not in the tech industry, you wouldn't think that, would you?
No, I mean, I think for young people, they think of tech and they think of the big companies, Google, Microsoft, Amazon. They don't even necessarily associate social media with it, which is really interesting. So there are lots of studies that show that teenage girls are much bigger users of technology than teenage boys. I think the number of like video gamers, for example, is pretty much equal, and then use of mobile phones, of like social media apps, is higher among girls. But there's this disconnect between use of technology and understanding that they could actually be in the teams that are building those things.
Yeah.
And the making an impact point's really interesting. We did some research with some young girls last summer about their kind of aspirations for their future careers, their priorities, like what was most important to them in their career. And very heartwarmingly, what came out top was wanting to feel like they were having a meaningful impact, beyond, making money for a company. They wanted to know that what they were working on was actually helping people somehow. So that's what we really try and focus on in our online events, especially, is that ultimately working in tech, even if you're working for a commercial organization, if you're in their tech team, your main focus is problem solving and is on making people's lives easier, even if it's just making sure people who need to buy your product can buy it quickly and easily, making sure that it's accessible to people who might have specific needs when they're using your app or your website. Even that on a small scale is obviously making a positive difference in people's lives. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, which is like solving, hopefully in the near future, things like climate change or cancer. Technology are going to be absolutely crucial in those areas. So it's making girls aware that tech really kind of intersects with every industry now. So whatever you're passionate about, whatever you care about, working in the tech team is a great way to really be involved in making a tangible difference in those areas. And it's also a foot in the door to whatever you're interested in, because we have this skills gap and this gender gap. Being a woman with tech skills does make you very employable. Just being a person with tech skills does. So, if you love fashion or sports or music and you'd love to work in that industry, but it's so competitive, if you have tech skills and you're looking for tech roles, you're going to find it slightly easier to get into those areas than you would if you were looking for areas that are in kind of other specialisms.
Yeah. And I'm pleased there that you kind of mentioned that disconnect as well between what girls think working in tech would be like, and not realizing that you can really make an impact. And because I wanted to ask you a bit about why you think there's a lack of girls taking STEM subjects at school. Is that one of the things? Or we mentioned earlier about you can't be it if you can't see it. Is it also role models and lots of other things? It's kind of a mix.
I think there's loads of problems. I think two of the big ones are like stereotypes. So we talked about busting myths. Our kind of hashtag or slogan at Next Tech Girls is smash the stereotype. And there's lots of kind of facets to that. So there's the obvious ones that working in tech means being a software developer, which it doesn't. That obviously some people in tech will be software developers, but actually that's a minority of roles. There's loads of other roles that need to be involved in a tech team that don't require any coding knowledge. And the girls that do work experience with us are always really shocked by that when they meet people who work in tech who don't even know how to code. That's really kind of revolutionary for them. And also just the stereotypes obviously about tech being for boys, or that boys are better at tech, which is obviously not true. And you know, the media portrayals of the kind of geeky, unsociable guys working in tech who, you know, work on their own, don't really collaborate, or the fact that even schools are still telling students that you have to be really good at maths to work in tech. Being good at maths, yes, might help you with software development, particularly if you're working in like back end in certain languages. That kind of logical way of thinking is definitely helpful, but it's not a reason to rule tech out. I was good at maths at school, but I hated it. And I love working in tech, and that's because I've been able to work on the more creative kind of people side, and we need people in those areas too. So yeah, the stereotypes are definitely a big problem. Like Hollywood has a lot to answer for that, I think, because they're still showing these stereotypes of people in tech, which are really not helpful. Lack of role models is definitely a problem as well. And I think the fact that when you do see women, you know, in the media talking about tech, they tend to be white women in very senior roles, which is great. It's great to see women in leadership because that's not very common. However, it's not very relatable for young people because, you know, firstly, not every young person is white. So it'd be nice to see some women of color in these positions as well. But also, that woman may have been in the industry for 20, 30 years before she's got to that point. So these young people have absolutely no idea how they started out, how they've got to where they are now. Even if they know that, well, they started out 30 years ago when, you know, things were very different to now. So it's hard for them to imagine themselves following in their footsteps. So one of our big priorities is to showcase role models who are actually earlier on in their careers, who have maybe just started out, who are able to have much more recent experience of being actually in the position of these young people who, you know, only did their GCSEs a few years ago, for example, and can remember what that was like. And it just feels so much more relatable, so much more accessible, I think, to young people if they can see someone who's only a few steps ahead of them and know exactly how they got there. I mean, there's loads of other things. There's the fact that there's still this assumption, which I think stems back to schools, that you have to do a computer science degree to work in tech, which we know is not true.
Yeah.
There's hardly any girls doing computer science degrees. You know, there's companies that are still demanding degrees in specific subjects, which really is not good for gender diversity. It's also not good for socioeconomic diversity and, you know, other kinds of diversity. Lack of teachers for computer science. Like more than a fifth of schools in England don't even offer computer science at GCSE because they don't have the teaching staff.
Yeah.
And the majority of the teaching staff are male. So again, there's that lack of role model for
role models. Yeah.
Yeah, because the only interaction they have with someone in anything related to tech is a man. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot to unpick. But I think from our perspective, a big thing is kind of breaking down those stereotypes, showing them relatable role models, just making them aware of the jobs that exist, because I didn't know about 95% of the jobs in tech until I started working in tech and was like, oh, user research, that's really interesting. And oh, wow, a delivery manager, I've never heard of that before. And product management and content design and UX design and all these really like interesting careers that there will be girls out there who would love to pursue them, but they don't know that they exist. So
Yes.
they'll be pursuing, you know, being a journalist or being, you know, a graphic designer maybe, which is kind of veering on tech, but not quite there. And it's even just opening their eyes to the fact these jobs exist. Women are doing really well in them. There's loads of benefits to being in them. Gets them to start thinking about, okay, what do I need to be doing now to help me to get there? And start taking those steps that kind of push them a little bit further down that path.
Yes, and as well, I love the fact that you touched upon you don't have to have a computer science degree, and that actually you can fall into tech or switch into tech any time that you wish throughout your career. And we have so many ladies on here that are doing that, retraining on maternity leave, or they might have been in work 10, 15 years already, and they want to find something a bit more flexible. And that's okay. I love the fact that you pointed out that a lot of the role models are very senior executives, and that is great, and it is definitely something to aspire to, but it's also not what everybody wants to do. And you're right, it is so far in your future that it's so hard to relate to that, and you don't hear as well the struggles that they went through to get there, and that is okay too. You're struggling along the way,
Yeah,
that's fine
exactly.
too.
Well, that's one of the things that we really talk to quite a lot to our role models about is kind of, I feel like this phrase is really overused, but about being authentic, about being vulnerable. So when they are sharing videos with us, or they're talking, they're writing a LinkedIn post, or they're writing a blog post or something, it's great for young people to see how successful they've been and how well they're doing and all the benefits of working in tech. But it's also really important for them to hear about the struggles that they've had, because, you could help them not repeat your mistakes, which is great. They can learn from where you've maybe gone wrong. But also it does just make you more relatable. It makes you more human. And if maybe something's going a little bit wrong for them at the moment, maybe they've just got their exam results and it wasn't what they were hoping for. If you've gone through something similar, but it's all turned out well, that's really inspiring for them. That's really motivating, and it helps them to think, because as a teenager, everything is like the end of the world because it's all you've ever experienced. And I can remember like picking GCSE subjects or A-level subjects and panicking that I'd be picking the wrong ones and I'd be stuck down a certain career path and would never be able to switch. And obviously I know now that's not the case, but I think for young people it still feels that way. So just making them aware that, if you go down a certain career path and you realize it's not for you, it's not too late, you can switch.
Yes.
That there are those opportunities available for you to try something different.
Yeah. And what about government and educational institutions? What more can they do to encourage girls into tech? You mentioned lots of great schools that work with you in that way. I'm assuming more schools should sign up for Next Tech Girls.
Please.
Like that.
We would love that. Yes, please. So we've got just over 300 schools now, I think, around the UK signed up to work with us. We've got quite a good nationwide spread now. Previously, we were just in London, but this year our focus has been going nationwide, mostly through our events. But yeah, we're always doing more school outreach, always looking for more schools to get involved. Any school can get involved. Our kind of outreach is focused predominantly on, I can't even say the word, academies. I don't know what happened there. My brain went. Our outreach is focused predominantly on academies and schools that have higher than average percentages of students eligible for free school meals. So that's our kind of proxy for students from lower income families or lower socioeconomic backgrounds, because we want to make sure that, we don't just help the kind of default girls and women into tech, and then you end up with lots more women, but they're all white and from like wealthy families and neurotypical and, etc., etc. So that's a big focus for us. Also, girls from ethnic minority backgrounds are a big focus for us as well. So we've done almost 200 work experience placements this year so far, I think. And 80% of those girls have been from an ethnic minority background. 40% have been Black, African or Caribbean. We know that Black women in particular are extra underrepresented in tech. So we're trying to make sure that we really focus on the people who need that extra support. Because they're facing extra barriers that they really shouldn't be, but they are facing these extra barriers to get into tech. So it's making sure that they're getting that experience and that inspiration to help them. But yeah, please, more schools, get involved. We're offering them, we're basically like supplementing their curriculum. We're helping with their careers outreach, helping to put them in touch with employers. So this is it's a no-brainer to me for schools to get involved. It just takes a while to kind of find the right person and get in touch with them. So any
Yes.
who hear this who want to get involved, please do. And there's no cost to schools or students. Everything is free for them, because that's a really important thing for us. We want it to be accessible to everyone.
Yeah, it's just finding that person, as you said, and also that advocate within that school who
Exactly.
somebody has told somebody that a career in tech is fabulous, and then that's where it kind of takes off. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about role models. We've touched upon it already in this conversation, but can you tell us who are some of your role models and why?
Oh, that's really hard. That's very hard. I'm probably going to mispronounce her name, which is really bad, but I love Reshma Saljani. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I might have to check that and re-record it if I've got it wrong. She worked in American politics and then founded Girls Who Code, who are now an international organization, teaching girls to code. But she's a really inspiring speaker. I only really have discovered her in recent years, but I definitely would consider her a role model now. One of the things that I love most about her is that she's very against imposter syndrome, which I've now taken on her stance on it and have been sharing it with people. And it comes across as quite controversial to begin with because it's such a popular topic at the moment. And I, like a lot of other people, when I first heard about it, found it really comforting knowing that, oh, loads of people experience this and it's totally normal. However, her kind of anti-imposter syndrome thoughts are that firstly, it tends to be quite gendered. So it tends to be focused quite heavily on women. And secondly, that the kind of reaction to it seems to be that women need to make the effort to kind of fix themselves and become more confident.
Yeah.
When actually her argument, which makes perfect sense, when I first heard her speech about this, I was just blown away. Like, yes, how did I not realize this? We potentially women do experience more of this so-called imposter syndrome, but that's as a result of the society that we live in, where we don't see people like us in positions of leadership. And so if we get to that point, there's no kind of blueprint for us. We feel like we don't belong because we've not seen other people doing it before, or we look around and we're the only one at the table. No wonder we feel like that. But it's not our problem to fix. It's like society's problem to fix. Within tech, it's the tech industry's problem to fix. It's all those men in senior leadership who need to step up and fix
That
it.
way.
Yeah, rather than the women's networks, having a speaker come in to talk about how to solve your imposter syndrome and putting all the onus on us to fix ourselves. So recently she's been quite a big role model for me and in helping me change my kind of thought processes and mindset, and just understanding that actually it's just self-doubt and everyone has it. And it can be a positive thing because it can push you to work harder. It can push you to do better. So it's not necessarily something that you even need to fix. It's just something that it's good to be aware of. So although I think the conversation around imposter syndrome is good to start talking about it and normalizing it and making people realize how common it is. But I think the fact that it's been kind of very heavily sort of marketed at women is a bit problematic.
Yes, I completely agree. It's something that we talk about a lot on here, and I agree it's not always for us to fix, but it does always come up in the conversation of women, especially women stepping into leadership as well. You're kind of already starting on the back foot, knowing that as well. You think, actually, I'm going to feel like an imposter when I step into a leadership role. And regardless of your gender, it can be daunting to step into a leadership role anyway. Absolutely. Because everyone thinks you've got the answers because you're in leadership, and suddenly you're thinking, does everyone think I know everything? Because you don't need to know everything.
And you're new, right? If you've just been promoted, it's your first time working at that level, so it's going to be scary and daunting, and it will take you a little while before you feel comfortable and like you know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So girls wanting to come into a career in the industry, can you kind of summarize why is it so important to inspire and support those girls that are hoping to come in and maybe on the fence about whether or not they should?
Yeah, I think it's really important. So we have a real kind of spectrum of girls that we work with. We have girls who are studying tech-related subjects like computer science, who are really interested in coding, for example, or cybersecurity or AI, and are very interested in a tech career. And then at the other end, we've got girls who don't really know what they want to do, or maybe want to go into some other industry, and we're kind of trying to spark an interest in tech. So there's that difference between sparking an interest and inspiring them to even consider it in the first place, versus the girls who already have an interest. It's about keeping them interested, because we know that girls' interest does drop off in a way that boys doesn't. It's keeping them interested, and it's also, like you said, kind of supporting them as well. So giving them that experience that kind of gives them the extra edge. So I think our work experience is the best way to do that. So a lot of the girls that do our work experience will already be interested in a tech career. But I do think doing the work experience is kind of fundamental in actually eventually getting them into tech, because it helps them to realize what tech is actually like beyond what they've experienced in their computer science classes, which, let's face it, like anything that you study in school is very different from actually doing it as a job. So it helps them to see, is this something that I just enjoy at school or as a hobby, or is it something I actually want to do as a career? You know, what are the different jobs that actually exist in tech? Because maybe I'm only aware of a couple of them. What are the different paths that I can take when I leave school? Because again, there's this assumption that you've got to do computer science at university, and that might not suit everyone. So it might be that a girl thinks, I don't want to do that, therefore I've got to pick some other job. So it's letting them know that actually there are boot camps that you can join, there are apprenticeships, there are degree apprenticeships, there are even like kind of entry level school leaver roles. There are all these, or, you know, you go to university, you study something totally different, like I did, and like a lot of other women do. So it's just making them aware of what working tech is really like, what roles are available, and what the different kind of routes are. I think that's really fundamental. We've got a young woman in her early 20s who did placements with us when we were kind of just starting out. So 2017, 2018, she was very keen. She had 3 placements with us in her summer holidays, I think. She was doing GCSE computer science at the time, and then she went on to do it for A level. She was the only student at her school, not just the only girl, the only student who did it for A level. She was very lucky that the school was willing to run the course, because I think
Yeah.
most schools minimum and be like no, but they were keen to do it, so they did. And she said that there was a girl in the year above her who came to talk to her and said, "Oh, you're so brave. I wish I'd been as brave as you. I really wanted to study it, but didn't want to be the only one, so I didn't." And she really credits the work experience that she did with us, because she got to be in a group of girls where, although she's the only one from her school, she met all these other girls from other schools who were also interested in tech, who also wanted to learn to code. So it made her realize there is this community out there. Even though I can't see it in my day-to-day in my school, I'm not going to be on my own. There are going to be other people out there like me. And also just getting that practical experience, she said, was really helpful in her deciding, this is something that I actually want to do as my career. It's not just something that I enjoy for fun. I would actually like doing this, 40 hours a week.
Yeah, because it must be worrying if you're the only girl in the school. If you see that network outside, you think actually there are other girls, it would be fun. You would be naturally thinking, is this what it's going to be like when I get into the world of work? It's like, is this
Exactly.
always going to be it?
Yeah, and I mean, I know with the schools that we work with, because we work with all girls and mixed schools, it's very interesting because the all girls schools tend to get quite good numbers of students doing computer science at GCSE if they offer it, and at A level. The mixed schools are almost always majority boys. There are some schools. I was speaking to a teacher at an event this morning who, he said at GCSE he's currently got 1 girl in his class. And I've spoken to lots of teachers where they start the year off with 1 girl and they end the year with 0 girls. And that's because that 1 girl joins the class, looks around, thinks, I don't fit in here. I don't want to be here. This is uncomfortable. I don't like it. They've not got a friend that they can talk to about homework or anything, potentially, because at that age, you often are a bit cliquey and you stick to, friends of the same gender. And yeah, it's happened so many times. I've spoken to so many teachers where they're like, oh, we managed to get extra girls, but then they dropped out. So yeah, it's very hard. And I think that's the beauty of what we're doing, that we're trying to create this kind of nationwide and hopefully eventually global community of girls that do have those interests, where, with each placement, I'll set up a WhatsApp group for them so they can all keep in touch. We try to make sure with our work experience that we do get girls from a mixture of schools rather than all from one school, because it does help them to make those connections across different schools. And they'll all be from the same kind of area, so they can even meet up with each other afterwards if they want to. And a lot of the feedback that we get from them is how much they enjoy working with these other girls, meeting these other girls with similar interests, who, their friendship group, they might be the only one who's interested in tech. And I've spoken to so many women who went down a certain career path because it was what all their friends were interested in. And then later realised, actually, I kind of wish I'd done something technical, but no one else was doing it. I didn't want to be the only one. So this is really a helpful way to keep that interest going in the girls that already have it, because they'll feel like they have got this community that can support them if they're struggling with their homework, or if they're applying to university to do computer science, or whatever it is that they're doing. There's other girls out there that are doing things that are similar that they can talk to about it.
Yeah, that you're not on your own. And a lot of our listeners, they are already women in tech, fallen into tech, or took a traditional route, however they got in. They are going to be wondering, how can they get involved? How can they encourage more girls to get into tech and to stay in tech, so other girls are not having maybe the experience that they might have had? How can they get involved?
So I would love for them to sign up to be role models with us. So we have this kind of role model program that we just launched in March of this year, and we've already got more than 300 women who've signed up to join, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's a volunteer program. There's no obligations. There's a form on our website. So if you go to nexttechgirls.com, quite near the top, it mentions role models and it says like apply to be a role model. You're effectively just giving us your email address and we'll send you an email about once a month with upcoming opportunities. So it'll be things like filming a video, maybe of like a day in your life, or answering questions about your career journey that we can then share on social media. It could be speaking at one of our online events. So we'll always have like a panel involved in the events. And we generally will try, and if we're not being sponsored by a specific company, we try to get women from different companies and in different roles and who've taken different routes in as well. So they can give that real like flavor of the variety. Also things like, you know, connecting us with the team who could maybe organize work experience or who could organize like a career insight day or something like that. There's always loads of different ways that people can get involved. And generally we get really nice sort of involvement and feedback from these women, because partly they want to give back. And like you said, they might have struggled to get into tech and they want to make it easier for the next generation, which is really nice. But also there are definite benefits, I think, to doing something like this, in that you're raising your own profile. You know, you're getting exposure across our social media. You might get noticed by senior people in your company because you're talking about what you're doing and you're kind of getting out there and speaking. You're getting speaking experience as well, which is very good for kind of just increasing your confidence in general. And also you're becoming part of our community. So a lot of the women that we work with, although they weren't our initial target audience, a lot of the women in our community who are already working in tech or looking to switch into tech have really benefited from working with us. They find working with young people very inspiring, but also meeting the other women that work with us on our panel events, or sometimes we run in-person sessions, they find really inspiring. And especially we ran an event in the summer, which was majority girls, but we had quite a few. We had like 30 or 40 women come. And we ran some kind of career development sessions specifically aimed at the women, while we did more kind of tech skills stuff for the young girls. And a lot of the women came away saying how exciting it was to be in a room of all girls and women, because it's so rare, and in their day jobs they never experienced that. So we're like, wow, the atmosphere is amazing. So that was lovely. But secondly, also having conversations with so many women who had similar experiences to them and realizing they weren't the only one. And that's because there's maybe not anyone in their team who's gone through something similar. So the career changes in particular, talking about feeling like, oh, they don't really belong, and they've kind of gone from maybe feeling quite well established in a different industry to suddenly being the newbie who knows nothing, or feeling like they know nothing. And meeting other women in similar situations who have also only recently moved into tech from other places, and understanding that that's totally normal. And, you know, everyone feels like that way when they start out. That community has been really beautiful as well, to kind of see that grow organically without us really intending it to. So it's really nice that we've managed to span kind of quite a wide age group and kind of different levels of experience in terms of current and aspiring future women in tech.
Yeah, the transitioning, the age groups, that's something that we love to hear on our live events. A lot of the questions are usually from ladies in their 40s and 50s, they're retraining, and they're always asking, is it too late? And, you know, can I get in? Who else has done this, and where did you get started? And you're absolutely right. Sometimes you retrain and then suddenly you find yourself being junior or a newbie, and you think it's trying to switch the mindset of, actually, I've got all this incredible work experience that I bring with me, and I'm not junior, but it again, you might come in and you think, oh, the imposter syndrome's back.
Exactly.
Trying to battle that. But I agree, it sounds like there are so many benefits to working with you, whether you're a school woman in tech or even young girls themselves. We will include details, obviously, of where to sign up for Next Tech Girls. And I'm so pleased that you came on here today, Emily, because as I said, when our guests do mention what women in tech networks would anybody advise to sign up or be part of, Next Tech Girls always comes up. So I'm so pleased that you joined us today, so we can hear it from yourself and the wonderful work that you're doing. But we're already out of time, and I could keep talking to you all afternoon. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Happy to come back anytime and continue.
Good. You are definitely welcome back for an update.
Thank you.
To everybody listening, as always, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.